What's going on, everybody? It's your man C Dougie over here at What's Up, Dub, man. We are back with content. It's time for the season. Today was cut day. We have a panel full that we're going to talk about NFL schedule. We're definitely going to talk about cuts, how we feel about the cuts, who shouldn't have been cut, and then basically our schedule prediction. Literally, September 8th is right around the corner. We have a great panel. Again, night one, shout out to two fans in the stands, CJ and Tony. They broke down the 53-man roster. We can talk about a little bit about how they felt about the predictions that we came out with, but it's time for the season. September 8th cannot get here any quicker. Go ahead and bring my panel up one by one. Bring up a newcomer that I have never had on What's Up, Doug? Let me go ahead and bring up, I call him CD. You may know him from Two Growls, One Roar. Go ahead and tell the people what's up, my man.
Well, it's good, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This man right here is no new face to this channel. Today's a special day for him. Before he comes on, I want to say happy birthday, Mr. Ricky Reigns. How are you feeling, my man?
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm feeling good.
Yes,
I'm feeling 1 year older today. Exactly.
Hey, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. And again, this episode is brought to you by What's Up, Doug, and two fans. I call him one of the two-part of my big cousins over at another channel, Mr. CJ. I call him Uncle Jerome. Go ahead and tell the people what's up.
Yeah. What's going on, bro? How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, man? Like I said, it has been an impactful day, man. When I say I'm tired, but I mean, the season's here. I mean, we just started the marathon of the season. We all went to training camp. We all were able to get our eyes on this team. Cut day is finally here. We're about to talk about it. We're about to get into it. So I'm going to hand it off to you, gentlemen. How are you guys feeling about cuts? I know everybody's going to talk about TMJ, but overall, how are you feeling about the team? With now the 53-man roster is cut right now, but there may be more additions to this squad.
Go for it, Carolina Dad. Let's hear it.
Make me go first. I like it.
Yeah. Pressure,
so,
man.
Bring the pressure on. So for me personally, I think we saw, at least when you start at the very basics of like the PUP list, non-football injuries, IR, a lot of things that we thought would play out, played out. With respects to Brooks, Barno, Wonham, Dane Jackson, Sam Franklin. I don't think there was any questions for me, of course, at quarterback. I know some folks wondering about, Jack Plummer, is he going to hang around? I think the one that I'll throw out, just because it was from where I was sitting, is Raheem Blackshear. And I'm not surprised that he made it. I just didn't know what was happening over the last few weeks and like why he was not out there. So as I kind of threw out a bold prediction that I thought Boone would make it over him, but I think it makes reasonable sense. And I think I don't want to take too much away from like where this landed so other folks can jump in. Jalen Coker making the cut. I know there's a lot of folks high on him. I thought he was borderline, but to see him make it, I think the Panthers made a decision that they didn't even want to risk him going on waivers. We know the back end could shake out a little bit differently, but that one stuck out. And then Andrew Rame, undrafted free agent center who really stepped up. I thought he was practice squad potential, but he's definitely elevated himself. And hey, we actually have a true center on the team. So I think that's my takeaways. I don't want to take too much away from everyone else to be able to dive in on whatever they want to jump into.
Yeah, and I think the Carolina Dad touched on some of the important ones. My 2 cents just on the receiver room, right? Because we'll talk about Jalen Coker, and that could kind of tie into everything else. And Dougie, you said it at the beginning. Terrace Marshall Jr. is what everyone wants to talk to, right? For me, man, I did think that it was an interesting group that they kept. I thought it was a peculiar decision to have ISM, David Moore, and Jalen Coker with no TMJ. I understand the moving on into the developmental stage of this team. And to be fair, Dave Canales has a good history of developing undrafted free agent wide receivers, right? That's not something that he's brand new to. He's done it. He's proven that he can do it. So if he sees something he likes, look, I trust it. And Coker has a lot to like. Coker is a legitimate route runner. He's got a nice release package off the line of scrimmage. But if you want to talk about merit as far as putting together the best room of wide receivers right now, I didn't anticipate seeing Coker, Moore, and ISM. I thought that Terrace Marshall Jr., despite the fact that he's been a training camp warrior for 3 straight seasons and hasn't produced in the regular season, I thought that his training camp was legitimately impressive. Like really just watching him play, he looked like he had improved from the previous years that we had doubts about him. That doesn't guarantee that he was going to find on-field success in the regular season, right? That's not what I'm insinuating. But if it was about earning the spot, I thought that he did enough to earn the spot if he couldn't get traded. I do think that the 3 tight ends that were kept were interesting. I know that everybody wants Ian Thomas gone, right? Number 80 survives again. Is there betting lines on Ian Thomas's career and like how long this in Carolina? I'm really interested to know what the plus money is on this at this point. I think that Ian Thomas has obvious appeal because of his blocking, but then they keep Tommy Tremble and Jatavian Sanders, who you know is going to be on there, but Jordan Matthews is gone. And for me, I do understand the logistical aspect of it. He's a vested veteran. He has never really stuck in the NFL. You're pretty much saying no NFL team is going to try and come and poach Jordan Matthews from us, right? Based off of his good preseason and training camp reviews. But it also kind of tells your team, hey, this guy has been working harder than just about everybody. First guy in every day, last guy out. And he's also been productive in games and in practices. I thought that he had done enough to earn that reward of saying you earn this 53-man spot and showing the rest of the team that this is a merit-based team. You're going to get playing time. You're going to get your spot based off of what you do and what you proved your value to be to this team. And his value doesn't extend just to the field. I think it does extend as a veteran presence and a guy who has overcome a lot of adversity to get where he is. I thought that would be extremely beneficial for this team. And I apologize for taking a long time on those two. But Jack Anderson and the Andrew Rame was an interesting dynamic to me. I had them keeping 10, and I wasn't looking at my little like prediction card as how many can I be right? How many can I have, my victory lap, my bragging rights about? It was more so I built my 53-man prediction off of what the verbiage and the communication from the team and from the beat reporters and from what I saw, right? And then doing a little bit of like numbers crunch within the team roster. And I thought that it was interesting they kept 10, but that Jack Anderson wasn't one of them. I thought they liked him when they gave him that contract after the first game. But they really like Rame. And to be fair, man, he looks good in his preseason action. Chandler Zavala is the guy that I dubbed. I was actually on a really fantastic podcast show called Two Growls, One Roar, where we did a initial 53-man prediction. And Chandler Zavala was my like surprise cut, right? That fans might be surprised to hear about because they're NC State fans, and he was a 4th-round pick just a year ago. He was awful last year, and I was worried that he wasn't going to show improvement. What Chandler Zavala did show was markable improvement, if you want my honest opinion. I thought that he has looked like a legitimate NFL depth piece at worst, maybe a developmental starter, and I think that he earned his spot as well. So just a couple interesting dynamics, but overall, man, nothing overly surprising to me. I had all 5 of the safeties that made it outside of Jamie Robinson, but I did have him keeping 5. So that makes sense to me too with the versatility. Interesting day, man. And it's not done. Wait until noon tomorrow before we actually talk about the 53.
Hey, that's where I was going to get at. One thing I think we've made it, but the journey's not done yet. CJ and I were talking. I'm like, CJ, they're headed to practice. He was like, duh, they cut people in practice at the Saints. I said, yeah. I'm like, they're already, they did a little walkthrough today. And for me, it's more of a lot of surprises. I wanted Mike Boone. We got Blackshear. Not mad at it. It was just more of we weren't able to really see what Blackshear can do in this scheme. And one thing I will give Hazard to and pause is don't just think we need to go and get every type of free agent that's dropped. They have to fit the scheme, and they have to be a number that we'd already have on this team. And whenever you bring in a player, they also have to take away from what we already have. So the player that we bring in, you have to make sure that they're either better or they can compete or they can produce better than what you're already cutting from the fat of this team. So when you have 10 offensive linemen. Our offensive line, what was the problem last year? We didn't have enough. So then when you look at the safeties, you already had Xavier Woods go down. And I want to say Fuller had like a little health scare, but you need a certain positions that they have strengths at. We are limited at other positions as well. But one thing that I am looking forward to as well is, again, like Ricky Ring said, tomorrow is really the day. if you did not have a particular player, you don't like a particular position group right now, the roster's not finished. I actually think they already have a D tackle flying out that played, I want to say it was either for the Houston Texans or Indianapolis Colts, already coming in for a physical and a look for a D tackle spot. So again, this roster is not done yet. But I'm looking forward to it, man. Before we get into the schedule, guys, did you have anything else before we jump into our schedule predictions? Anybody else had another point?
No,
I just wanted to mention it was
yeah, go for it, CJ. Sorry, man.
Oh, no, I just wanted to mention it was interesting, but it was the numbers for me. It was the 5 safeties, the 5 cornerbacks, we had like 6 or 7 defensive linemen and the 10 offensive linemen. I was wrong. I thought if TMJ didn't get traded, he was going to be a lock for the roster. That kind of surprised me. But yeah, it's the numbers. The numbers kind of surprised me by how many they kept. And I'm wondering, if that's kind of, strategic, and if somebody is like on the roster for a day and then gone tomorrow. So like Ricky said, we'll see tomorrow at 12. But yeah, that's all I had to say.
I think that's a great point too, though, that it is just a numbers game for right now, right? Like the final roster will be tomorrow. I do anticipate seeing they kept 4 outside linebackers on this initial 53. I think that they're gonna have to have 5. I think they're gonna have to have at least 5, man. Like I would be shocked if that's the pass rush that we go into the season with. And there's not like a ton of great players that hit the waivers, but there are some interesting names that I circled when I saw them come out that I think are worth kicking the tires on a little bit, right? Especially if you're talking about like a guy like Jaden Peavy, probably the 7th defensive lineman that made the 53. I think that a guy like a KJ Henry or even a Viliami Fehoko Jr. that was cut from the Cowboys out of San Jose State 2 years ago. I really liked him. Mitch Agude that was cut from the Lions, another really good player. So, I mean, there are Breland Speaks is a pass rusher that was released that I liked. Julian Okwara has the connections to Charlotte. So, I mean, there are names out there that I'm keeping an eye on that I think is interesting. That Mike Boone point, man, I forgot about that. That's an interesting one. But it also made a lot of sense, right? Because of the vested veteran thing. And he already says he wants to come here. That language is also different than the Jordan Matthews language. When Jordan Matthews' release was posted on multiple accounts, it was he's been released, and the team hoped he would come back to the practice squad. When Mike Boone was released, it was they already expect him to come back to the team, to sign to the team.
Correct.
So I think that you got to pay attention to some of that language that's used as well. But hey, look, I'm trying to trust in Canales on everything, and there's no huge surprises. So I'm interested, man, on how this turns out tomorrow.
Yes, sir. All right. Before we get into our schedule release, we got to shout out our sponsor, SeatGeek. This episode is brought to you by SeatGeek. For any first-time user that uses the code What's Up Doug, you would get $20 off your first ticket price for concerts, for football, baseball, and when basketball season comes around. Again, for any first-time user, if you use the code What's Up Doug, the code that is in the ticker at the bottom, you will receive $20 off your first ticket price when you use the code What's Up Doug at SeatGeek. Again, this episode is brought to you by SeatGeek. All righty, fellas. So let's go ahead and get into it. How many wins do you see? Meaning, I think Vegas, if I'm not mistaken, has it at 5.5. I know some people say 9 wins. Some people are saying playoffs. Some people are saying NFC South champs. We're about to get into it, and these gentlemen we're gonna go game by game. Some slides may have multiple games on it, but I kind of highlighted certain games to see, the impact of how the season can go. So, have your thoughts changed about this team? Just a couple icebreaker questions. You don't have to answer them, fellas. But has Bryce Young changed your mind about how you think he will play this season? Can Evero's reinforcements help this defense? And that's supposed to say, has the Dave Canales effect showed you anything during training camp? So I'm gonna hand it off to the fellas. How are you guys feeling about after what you see for 3 preseason games? How are you feeling about going into week 1 on September 8th?
Let Carolina Dad go at it again, but I do want to shout out his wardrobe change mid thing,
right.
and not actually like his clothes, but the setting, man. Really good stuff. This is
Oh,
show
that was
business,
a
Carolina Dad.
was not planned. I always try that room. It never works. So unfortunately, it did not work again.
You got to keep trying, man. But it's impressive show business stuff, man. You're really good.
I try, man. Appreciate it. And so for me, I think it's changed a little bit. And it's funny because I'm sitting down here and before the show, like getting prepared, I've been hovering around 5 to 6 wins, but I think that's me being realistic. I always like to say the fan side of me wants to lean a little bit more, and it's hard not to get a little bit excited after what we saw on Sunday. And I even had to hold myself back as I was going through the list tonight, looking at the games, and I started to chalk up a win. And I was like, I got to ease myself up a little bit. So I think it's changed a little bit, but not significantly. I don't think I'm really going to feel it until we actually see them start winning a few games and being competitive this year. That's my thought.
Who is telling you that you got to hold it in, man? Who's telling you to let that right answer? Let that hope
That's
shine,
right.
man.
The
Like,
internet's-
look, you want the very first prediction I think that any Panthers fan should give, right? And I think this should be just across the board. And this is the Mac special, right? The Mac and Bone special. 17-0, baby. Like that's what the prediction is. You go 17-0 because that's what you want.
No.
But listen. Here's the thing. That's not realistic. That's not what we're here to do.
Facts.
But as a fan,
Facts.
that is what I'm starting with, man. I'm coming into every season with the mentality of 17-0. But I think that Carolina Dad makes great points that like you do have to be realistic about the situation that this team is not only in, but is coming off of. Like there's been roster turnover, but the roster still has a lot of the familiar faces. And those familiar faces put together a 2-15 record. So coming into week one, is that what we're doing here, Doug? We're talking about week one first?
No, just overall. Or we're going to talk about
overall.
week one after this slide, but you're good.
The first question about did Bryce Young change my opinion on how he'll play? Not for me, because I also am of the opinion that Bryce Young is going to play very well. I think that well, look, we don't have to talk about it. He was in an awful situation. Every Panthers player was in an awful situation last year, and it was disappointing on all accounts. But he hasn't done anything to change me because I still believe in it. The one thing I'll say, his footwork is noticeably different just from that one preseason drive. And I know we all have been at training camp. We've seen the practices and stuff like that. But seeing it in game when there's live fire coming after him, his footwork is different. His internal clock is recalibrated. His confidence has been reinstilled. I mean, he is playing. Everyone talks about Bam or Bryce. We're going to finally see Carolina Bryce, though. Like, that's what we're going to see. This is the updated version, right? It's like when Jared Goff was in Detroit or in Los Angeles, and then he goes to Detroit. They took the same guy, and they just upgraded him. That's what's happening here, man. They're taking his strengths, and they're upgrading him. They're not reconfiguring. They're not rebuilding. They're just making him better. So I'm excited about it, man. And I do have a little bit of confidence.
Go ahead, CJ. Carolina Dad. Go ahead, CJ. You got anything?
Yeah. With me, well, Ricky kind of said it all right there. But I feel the same way. I think he was in a crappy situation, and I think everybody knows it, whether you want to admit it or not. Dave Canales, I love his positivity. I love the way that you see his interactions, with the players. I think it's it's different than what we had last year. You know what I mean? I do think he has a one hell of a poker face too. He can really get up there and he says what he has to say and then he moves on. But yeah, as far as Bryce goes, I think we'll get to see. I think we'll get to see exactly why we picked him at number one. Now there's going to be that part of the fan base that's not going to feel any type of way no matter what because of what we gave up to get him. That's always going to be the lingering thing, and that'll probably always be why people don't like him. He could probably go out there and throw for 4,500 yards this year and 30 touchdowns, and they are going to be like, well, you know what? He had one snap and dropped the ball, and they'll harp on that, for the entire season. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be better things for the Panthers this year.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. The season opener. Week 1, we're at New Orleans. And last year I had the pleasure of actually seeing this game, and I had a distasteful taste in my mouth last year because of the way it just looked. I mean, like Ricky said, last year was terrible. CJ alluded to it, and Carolina Dad did as well. I mean, as a fan, we saw it a different way. But the question is, did we see enough in Week 3's preseason game from the starters that makes you think the play would translate over to Week 1 against the Saints? And this is where everybody will have their opportunity to give a win or a loss in the record, and we're going to go down every single game. So whoever wants to start it off with that, we're going to go ahead and get our season prediction starting now.
Okay. Look, I'll go first on this one. I think I saw enough from the offense to feel comfortable Week 1 against the Saints. My problem is the defense. I don't know if our run defense, I haven't seen it yet to give me, the belief that it's that much more improved. Hopefully it'll be that way against New Orleans. In our pass rush, I know Jadeveon Clowney wasn't out there, so I'm hoping that he can come in and be what everybody thinks he can be, and then what they brought him in for. But that other side, his running mate, DJ Johnson, Caleb Von Chason. Now, this is the perfect game for them to be able to take advantage of what they see on the other side of the line, because the Saints' offensive tackles are trash. Okay. And that's just not me being a fan of the Panthers. That's just what it is.
Trash.
They are dog water trash. Yeah.
Trash.
So
you can't say that word trash enough talking about that offensive tackle.
You can't. But yeah, it's to me, I've seen enough out of the offense. I think we'll be okay. But can the defense stop Alvin Kamara? And can the defensive line, our edge rushers, get enough pressure on Derek Carr? Because my thing is, if we can't get to him, if we give him too much time in the pocket, he's going to eventually find somebody. So, we'll see. But that's my feelings on game 1.
So you have a win?
Yes, I do. I think we're going to go down to the Big Easy and come back with a W.
Okay. All right. Carolina Dad or Ricky? What's going on, Tony? I know we got you popped up in here. So we're talking about Week 1 New Orleans Saints. So Ricky or Carolina Dad, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and do this real quick since I keep putting you on the spot, Carolina Dad. Week 1 is a win for me. And I think South Carolina fans will love to hear this. I would be almost more nervous about this New Orleans Saints team if Spencer Rattler was the starting quarterback.
Don't let him out. Yep.
Don't let him out, right? And look, I know that Derek Carr is the butt of a whole lot of jokes, and I don't think that he's as bad as a lot of people make him out to be. But his situation isn't good either. So it's not just that he's not all that good. His offensive tackles, like CJ was just talking about, Trevor Penning is having a really rough time doing any kind of pass blocking. I mean, any kind. Not even bad pass blocking is he doing well. Like he's below that. Tylese Fuaga is the rookie out of Oregon State, and he's a career right tackle who was dominant and terrific at it. And he's a good mover, and he's a solid athlete, but they moved him over to left tackle as a rookie. And that's an experiment, man. When you already got Trevor Penning, who you can't rely on, that's going to be really interesting. Alvin Kamara, to me, had looked like he was starting to kind of show a little bit of wear and tear on his body from his career towards the tail end of last season as well. We know Kendre Miller isn't going to be involved. Dennis Allen hates that guy. Like, I have never heard a coach berate a player since, well, Brian Flores. I guess he's in a little bit of hot water here recently, but there's like little bit of hints of that. Chris Olave can't save everything for the Saints. Now, that defense should be okay. Cam Jordan is aging. So I'm not nearly as concerned about Cam Jordan as I have been for the past 6 years as a Panthers fan, right? Their secondary is okay. Their secondary has some talent. But I can't help but think this offense has a lot to prove and come out, and they are going to have a fire under them. One thing about Canales is that he will invigorate a team, and he will connect with them. And I think he gets the absolute best out of these guys Week 1, and they come out and they surprise some people. So I give him a W.
All right, got you down. All right, CD.
I'm falling right in line. Ricky stole my line. I was gonna say if Spencer Rattler is out there, I'm a little concerned, but without him out there, I'm not. I
I
think the
apologize.
question you said, yeah, no, you're good, man. I think the question you were asking too was like coming in, what we saw out of the last preseason game in as it pertains to the starters. I even looked beyond the starters in what Dave Canales was able to do with Plummer. And I think that's more of a testament to him. And I know Idzik was calling the plays too, but even with everything that's around them, it just feels like a much more functional offense than what we saw last year. Last year, it felt so difficult to convert, to even get a first down, much less like think about scoring. So I'm looking forward to this week. I do think as we like battle out in the division that I do still have Atlanta and Tampa Bay, unfortunately, right now above us. But I do think between us and New Orleans, like we should be hopefully competitive enough to overtake them. I think the thing that I'm keying off of, not even Saints related, is really Panthers related. Like we've got a lot of talk about running the football, and I don't know. I know we saw Miles Sanders very limited in the last, with the starters. I still like, I don't know. Like, what is he going to be? We're going to have him for 4 weeks. Are we going to see more of Raheem Blackshear? But I wasn't impressed, even in the snaps that we did see him out there. So I think Chuba Hubbard probably it's going to be carrying a big load. But I think you'll also hit on good points about, the defense being able to stop them and what that's going to look like. But yeah, I am chalking this one up as a dub for the Panthers.
All right, Tony, go ahead and take us home so we get into week 2.
All right. Yeah, I feel like Carolina is going to be riding the emotional, I guess you could call it emotional high of that Dave Canales, with the new Dave Canales regime. I think a lot of the expectations and being doubted, there's not going to be a lot of people or a lot of teams that places Carolina above the Saints in this game, and I think they're going to use that as a little bit of momentum and come out and shock some people week 1. So I just think that they're going to carry over that positive energy that they get it from Coach Canales and Dan Morgan, and hopefully that will set this team on the right trajectory for the season.
All right. So I think we're all like-minded. I have a win as well. Again, I'm a be at that game. I can't go 0-2 going back to New Orleans. Like at least we can split. Look at little Ricky. I always like when little Ricky come up, but for me,
Yeah, my son wanted to come in and say goodnight. I apologize.
no. I told you. Hey, you don't no apologies here, man. We're family man first. But for me, this defense stayed on the field a lot last year, and our offense can't do anything. Again, that New Orleans Saints game, they blocked the punt and the momentum swung to New Orleans Saints side that last game in New Orleans in December last year. Again, I think with the pieces that we've added, if we stay healthy, I think we're getting people back. I'm really expecting Bryce to come out. I'm not saying guns blazing, but looking like a different quarterback against what Carolina Panther fans want to see. He's not going to be the same quarterback he was last year. You already see the transitions and a different look in his eye when it comes to playing this year. Then we'll finally see Chuba Hubbard, what I think with a improved offensive line that almost got 1,000 yards last year. When you bring in 2 guards that are maulers and they can actually move people and create lanes, I think Chuba Hubbard's going to have a big game in game 1. Not saying 100 yards, but possibly close with a running touchdown. And I expect then, like we said, offensive line, I've already said I expect our D-line to get at least 5 sacks. The Saints offensive line is trash. Like we said, dog water, trash water, whatever you want to say it. They are not going to be able to double Jadeveon Clowney, double Derrick Brown, and at least Ashawn Robinson or whoever else one-on-one just with one offensive lineman. And again, if you do If you do, I can't think of the move. But if you have Clowney, DB, and Ashawn Robinson, and Ashawn comes behind DB, twit spin. I forgot what it's called. I know it's on the top of my tongue. But basically,
Stunt.
they all come.
Yeah.
Say it again, Tony.
How about a stunt?
Tight end stunt.
Yes. Yeah. If they do a stunt and then you have Jadeveon Clowney coming on the same side, that's a guaranteed set that I put my last dollar on. So again, I'm looking forward to week 1, starting out a division win, not even 1-0, but going 1-0 in a division earlier in the year with a young team and a new head coach is a great move. All right. So with this slide, we're going to go a little bit faster because we have 3 games on one slide. But the question that I have is, with facing 2 AFC West opponents on back-to-back weeks, can the Carolina Panthers split week 2 and week 3 and come out with a victory against the Chargers and the Raiders coming into going into the season and then going into week 4? So whoever wants to jump it off, go ahead and just say win, loss, or draw, and then give me, out of these 3 games, which game are you looking most forward to?
I'll kick it off. I'm going to go win against the Chargers, loss against the Raiders, even though I think that game's winnable. When you look at the Chargers, and I just posted earlier today, I don't know how many people have paid attention to former Panthers that have journeyed out of the Carolinas. We're talking about a Chargers team with Bradley Bozeman, Hayden Hurst, and DJ Chark. And it's no knock on any of those guys, but we had all 3 of those here in Carolina last year. We saw what they were with Bryce Young and Frank Reich and everything else. That's who we're supposed to fear. I know they have Justin Herbert. He's a heck of a quarterback. But I look at their offensive skill set. I guess Gus Edwards, some guys, J.K. Dobbins, I followed them along as Nolan's a Ravens fan. I'm not worried about the offense. I am worried about the defense. I think the defense for the Chargers is going to be a bigger step. But I look at the momentum coming in here. Hopefully, you think about a Los Angeles Chargers team that probably doesn't travel well. So hopefully the bank is a pretty decent Panthers crowd for that opening week. So I'm looking forward to that one. I won't, dive in too much on the Raiders in case somebody wants to talk about them. As far as like out of the 4 the 3 that I'm looking most forward to, this is just personally, I'm looking forward to the Bengals game because of Randy Slack here in Wilmington. He's a Bengals fan. So we're going to have a lot of trash talking going on that week. So that's just a personal note for me.
All right. So again, Carolina, you said, can you give me those 3?
So I'll give you win, loss. I actually, like, right before this was going to flip those, but yeah, win, loss for me.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Ricky.
All right. I'll go first. I just wanted to serve a quick little reminder here that all of us took the New Orleans Saints game as a win. So that's pretty much the kiss of death right there. Just to put that out there. When you have unanimous panels, it never goes well. But getting into this one, I like Carolina Dad's thinking. Here's the thing I'll say about the Chargers, man, and why I'm going to give us a loss in that game. Their offensive line is much improved. The addition of Joe Alt on that right side, the big dancing bear, Rashawn Slater over there on the left side, their interior with Zion Johnson, and Bradley Bozeman. I know, man, we all remember that experiment, right? That was also in a zone blocking scheme. I think that John Harbaugh is going to run a lot more angle man blocking concept or scheme, right? That's going to be the system that they run. That's why they were comfortable bringing him in. And John Harbaugh, as the coach, is also going to emphasize that run. If we were playing them in week 6 or week 7, I wouldn't feel as nervous about it. But I think that J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards can stay healthy for 2 games, or at least a game and a half, or at least a game and 3 quarters. And we got to deal with that 2-headed monster, which is a legitimate 2-headed monster. When J.K. Dobbins is healthy, I think he rattles off like 6.2 yards per carry. I think that's his career average. He is a dynamic runner. Gus Edwards is a bruiser. Now, look, we've done a lot of paying attention to bolstering our run defense, so I think we'll be improved there. But I still think that we're untested. So I don't anticipate the New Orleans Saints testing us a whole heck of a lot in that regard because of their offensive line. I think this is the first true test. And I also won't discredit Justin Herbert, and I won't discredit the toughness that Harbaugh will bring to his team. I think it's a really close game. I think that it's tough. I think it could be a toss-up. But if I got to go wins and losses here, predicting, I'm going to go loss there. I'm going to go bounce back win in Las Vegas. I think they take that loss personal, and then I think they run into Gardner Minshew, and they say, you're not Justin Herbert. Like Evero is not going to get beat by Gardner Minshew after barely losing to a Justin Herbert-led offense. So I will go win in Las Vegas, which will be a lot of fun for the Roaring Riot because they're traveling out there. That's one of the packages. So shout out to that. That's going to be a great away game, good experience. Then I think you got the Bengals. And unfortunately, man, I just think that the talent gap is still too wide between our roster and that roster. And they have continuity. They've played together for a long time. That coaching staff has been there outside of losing their offensive coordinator. That defensive coordinator for the Bengals is terrific. Lou, with a last name that everyone can't say, absolutely terrific defensive coordinator. Got some real pieces over there. I think it's a test. I think it'll be a nice little barometer to see where we are against them because I think that we're not going to get blown out like we remember that one Cincinnati game, right? Where we were down, what was it, 21 or 28-0 within the first half. And then we had to come roaring back where we still lost 42-21, if I remember correctly. I don't think it goes that badly, but I also don't think that we're there yet. So I'm going to go win, loss.
All right.
Or no, wait. I lost, win, loss. My bad. I messed that up.
Okay. All right, CJ or Tony?
Hey, I'm gonna go win, loss. And I say that because I think if we can go down to New Orleans and get ourselves a win in week 1, hopefully that momentum can follow us into week 2. Now, not to say that the Chargers are going to be a pushover because I know they're not, but I'm hoping, like Ricky said, they do not travel well. And hopefully that'll be an advantage for us at home in the bank. Okay, Vegas. I really don't have any faith in Vegas, and I pray to God that my barber is watching this because he is a big Raiders fan, and I keep telling them that we're going to go to Vegas and win. Lovely stadium, great to look at, but I think we're going to go and get the dub. And I agree with Ricky on Cincinnati. The fact that the talent gap is too big for us right now because especially with the weapons that they have at receiver, and we have J.C. Horn. Okay, and I will kind of go back to what I like to a good example of this, the Pittsburgh game a couple years ago, when I think whoever was playing that game opposite of J.C. Horn started off on Pickens. Okay, then Pickens got a couple catches. They put J.C. Horn on Pickens, and then Deontay Johnson torched us for the rest of that game. So this might be that same type of situation where if J.C. Horn could lock down Jamar Chase, but it's like, who are we that sure that Michael Jackson and Deshaun Jameson and the rest of the crew can not necessarily lock down but limit the other receivers that they have, and there's still Joe Burrow back there. I know they lost Joe Mixon, but they do have what was it, Zach Moss is their starting running back now, so you can't discredit their run game either. So but yeah, I say win loss in those 3.
All right, Tony, you gonna put some skin into the game? Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm gonna go loss, win, loss, and I'm gonna start off with the Chargers, where I believe that will be a loss. I think even though the Chargers have lost a lot on offense, when you're talking about losing two your top 2 starting wide receivers and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and then you lose Austin Eckler to the Commanders. I think the Charger offense is still going to be good because of the type of offensive scheme that Jim Harbaugh brings uh to the Chargers, which is a smash mouth, north south, inside zone type of blocking scheme. So something similar to something similar that we had with Steve Wilkes for those 12 games that we had in 2022 was that north south smash mouth football, a lot of 12 personnel, I think that the Chargers also have a quarterback in Justin Herbert, which will allow to take a little bit of pressure off of him because they're not passing as much. But if they need to, they can, and he can also move out of the pocket and get a few yards here and there. With the Raiders, I think the Raiders present a little bit more of a problem defensively. Even though the Chargers have a good defense, I think they're getting up there in age. When you talk about Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and those guys, but I think the Raiders present a little bit more of a problem defensively, especially up front when you add Christian Wilkins alongside um, the defensive end, Max Crosby, right? And even though now they on the flip side have the opposite at the quarterback position. I mean, I like Gardner Minshew, but he's not no Justin Herbert. But I think the common denominator for them on offense will be Devontae Adams. So you hoping that J.C. Horn can come in and do a good job against Devontae Adams. I'm not gonna say shut him down because I don't think I've ever seen anyone really shut Devontae Adams down. But if he can go in there and present, uh, you know, take Devontae Adams out of the offense per se, I think you may have a chance um, at that point in time. But I believe just going into Vegas, going into that atmosphere with this young, hungry team, and with the head coach that they have now with Antonio Pierce, I think those guys are going to be riled up and ready to play a good game, no matter who they are. And with Cincinnati, I take that as a loss
Hold on,
because
Tony. What'd you say? Hold on. So is it a win or a loss? Because you gave a motivational speech like the Raiders gonna still win at home.
no, it's I got it as a loss against the Raiders. I got it
Okay.
as a win against the Chargers, loss against the Raiders, and
Okay.
a loss against the Bengals. I mean, Joe
Okay.
Burrow is Joe Burrow. Um, Even though they don't have um, one of the trio at wide receiver, I think Jermaine Burton is going to come in and do things that what's his name couldn't do. I can't remember. I forgot the third receiver that they had last year, but
Boyd.
having
Tyler Boyd.
Boyd.
yeah,
Boyd.
Tyler
Boyd.
Boyd, correct, yeah, but having Jamar Chase and T Higgins there, no Joe Mixon. We know he's in Houston, but like I said, like Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow, so you can never count them out. And their defense is pretty good as well. So I'm gonna give a loss in Cincinnati as well.
Okay. For me, here, let me see. Let me go back to it. Chargers, I think we go 2-0. Everybody's gonna be on the high horse. Everybody's gonna rah 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 da 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 da. The Death Star is gonna be a tough place to play in, and I think that's the Raiders' home opener. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's their home opener. I may be wrong, but even if it's not playing in the Death Star in Vegas, it's gonna be a tough game. When you have a coach just like a Dave Canales, where Antonio Pierce has a little bit more experience because he was an interim, those players believe in Antonio Pierce, just like I believe our players believe in Coach Canales. I'll say the Bengals game, if I had to switch, I could see possibly 3-0 and then going 3-1. Only reason why you can't go too high because this team is very young. I'm not going to drink all the Kool-Aid. I'm not going to be like, oh, our roster is better. Joe Burrow, when he's healthy, is a top 5 quarterback, maybe top 3 when he is healthy. Again, when you have that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase duo, regardless of what Joe Mixon did, we don't have a corner on the opposite side right now that's proven that can shut down T. Higgins. As much as Carolina Panther fans wanted T. Higgins here, that's the reason why, because of his play. Their offensive line, which is one of their weaknesses, they built up the offensive line. Joe Burrow just had a freak injury last year. So I honestly think right now it's a possible of going 2-2 or 3-1 to start out the season with our first 4 games. If you're enjoying the content, you're new to the channel, definitely hit the like button for us over here. What's up, Doug? I appreciate our guys CD, Ricky, and 2 fans in the stands, Tony and CJ, showing up for us. We have another content creator that's in the backstage that's going to jump in with us going into week 5. And again, if you're on Twitter, come over to YouTube. If you're on, head over to Twitter and hit subscribe on both sides and support everybody on this platform tonight. So the game that I think a lot of people are looking forward to is because a possibility of us having another quarterback is the battle of the number 1 picks. Last year, you had Bryce Young. This year, you have Caleb Williams. This game, it will be back in Chicago like it was last year. I think this game can either make the haters that hate Bryce more, put more hate on him, or Bryce can shut some of the haters up based off of a team winning, not Bryce single-handedly winning this game for us. So, fellas, going into week 5, the battle of the number 1 picks. Who do you have?
I'll go first. I'm taking Carolina with this one. For the simple fact, there's a lot of hype created around Caleb Williams, and rightfully so. But that's every year, no matter who's the number 1 overall pick or the first quarterback off the board. I think, Caleb Williams is going to go through. I think he's going to go through typically just about what every other first round pick or first overall pick goes through. There are going to be some struggles. I think what you seen last year out of CJ Stroud was an anomaly. That's not often that a rookie comes in and put it on type of show that he did last year. I think if you can get Caleb Williams off platform, get him out the pocket, scrambling, trying to create plays, I think he's more prone to making mistakes. He never played in the NFL or a pro style offense, so this is all new to him. And I know things look good in preseason, that's cool, but everybody's not throwing their best. They're not schemed for, they're not schemed up for him. Everything that he saw was pretty much on a basic level. So I think he's going to get, I don't want to say a rude awakening, but I think he's going to see some things defensively that he's never seen before. And it'd be interesting to see how he responds, even though he has the great weapons around him. Now, if he tends to not want to lean on those weapons, I think that's going to be a problem. If you go out and try to be a Superman, which I hope he does, then I think that's going to be a problem as well. So I got us in a victory at Chicago.
All right. Carolina Dad or Ricky?
All right, I'll take it. Let's see. If I had to pick right now, so here's the thing about Chicago, right? I think that they have got to have a good ground game. What we saw last year with the rookie quarterback is that you have to have balance and you have to have some way to play off of a element to have success in the other. Even CJ Stroud had it to an extent. Their run game wasn't prolific, but they also didn't give up on it. And they were able to make enough movement with it that it opened things up for that pass game. I worry about the offensive line for Chicago. Not worry from a Panther standpoint, but worry from a analytics standpoint. I worry about their ability to open up that run game. And DeAndre Swift, can he stay healthy? He's no longer behind that Philadelphia Eagles line, right? He may look a lot more like the tail end of his Detroit tenure than he did in Philadelphia last year. So if you make him one-dimensional, here's the thing about Caleb Williams. He's not shy to play hero ball. He will sling that thing 50, 60 times a game if you ask him to, and he'll think that he's doing the best he can. But he also can take way too many risks, and I think that I anticipate him doing so in his rookie year because there is so much pressure on him to be great. I mean, like to be incredible. And I think he wants to be that. And I think that the desire to be that, as opposed to playing controlled football, is going to sometimes get him jammed up. And I think that could be a situation here that if our run defense is much better as it's supposed to be, and they're playing against our secondary, which is supposed to be our weak spot, maybe Caleb decides this is the game I'm going to really just kind of like throw it to the wind. Maybe DeAndre Swift is hurt by now. I don't know, right? A lot of factors. If I had to really guess, I think that Carolina should win this game. I think that they have enough on the offensive side. Chicago's defense doesn't scare me entirely. I think that their edge rushers have gotten much better with the acquisition of Montez Sweat last year at the trade deadline. I still don't know what the rest of their defense looks like, right? And Matt Eberflus, man, from a offensive standpoint, what is he going to have that offense doing? Like, he just hasn't been able to put together anything from his offensive coordinators and stuff like that. He hasn't been able to put any kind of success together. Keenan Allen is a really good career wide receiver. I don't know where he is in his career right now. I would like to find that out. And also, he has a hard time staying on the field. So I would like to see who is healthy out there. And when we get into the week 5, week 6, week 7 of the NFL season, I do kind of consider that one or two of those key cogs may not be there if they have a history of not being there around that time of the season. So if they're down a couple players and it's Roma, Dunze, and DJ Moore might get his, but it might be locked up by seatbelt JC Horn as well. So I just think that we do match up fairly well with that roster. And Bryce Young, hey, look, when the bright lights were on and it was against him and CJ Stroud last year, right? The number 1 versus number 2 pick. Bryce came out and he played a good game and his team rallied around him. And that was with the camaraderie in that locker room. What we've already seen from the victory speech from Dave Canales is that the feel, the vibe, the team atmosphere of this Carolina Panthers team is a whole lot different and stronger. So I think they rally around him and I think they pull out a W.
All right. Go ahead, Carolina Dad.
This one's for Ricky. Maybe you can see it. Maybe.
Yeah,
as long as we don't have to trot someone out there at the end of the, I just kid. I kid. No, in reality, y'all were great. I was looking back over Chicago, and it's very early, some of their stats from last year, and I personally didn't realize they had the number 1 rushing defense in the league, which was a bit of surprise. They had 22 takeaways, which was tied for the most with San Francisco, which was a little surprising as well, because I don't really think about the defensive side of the ball with them. But speaking to this game, one on Caleb Williams, I do think Caleb Williams is going to pan out and be really good. I personally think he could be primed to have a CJ Stroud-esque year. I do think Ricky called out some good points about him wanting to sling it around, maybe like a Baker Mayfield or a Brett Favre when he's back there. But I think it's a big game, and I hope we don't play into it too much as far as like the team making it more than it is, which I don't think we will. But it feels like there's a rivalry. I haven't really been involved in it, luckily, knock on wood, with a lot of the Bears folks and Panthers folks. There's just going to be this attachment. And I would love to see Bryce Young go out there, and the whole team, of course, do really well and pull out a dub. I do think right now that Caleb Williams may take a little time to get under his feet. So I do think I am going to have the Panthers winning this game.
And just to explain what the shout out was there by Carolina Dad with the terrific pantomime, by the way, right? Oh, the shrug, the classic shrug, because we're just hoping that this game doesn't come down to a 50-plus yarder in the wins, and we have to trot Eddie to do that again.
Hey, we're not doing Ricky. I will not do that tonight. I can't do it tonight because we would go totally off script about how I personally feel about Eddie P. But I definitely agree with you on that.
Fair, Carolina Dad won that entire debate. If we want to get down to the nitty gritty of it, the guy that he was defending, and not even defending, man, he was just making points, right? But the guy that he was supporting with his points is the guy that's on the roster, while the guy that is the thicker version of the kicker is at home waiting on a phone call.
That's a fact. PPP, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. So how you feel about week 5 going with the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines as everybody else. And, hey, how y'all doing today, man? The one thing I will say is Chicago isn't shy on, weapons. DeAndre Swift, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. I think they got a Dunze as well and Cole Kmet. I mean, they have they have pretty good, weapons there, on the offense. The only determining factor would be how acclimated does Caleb Williams get into the NFL, which it's unforeseen right now. He had a couple highlights that everybody kind of went, bonkers for, last or 2 preseason games ago. But you just don't know. Their defense to me is pretty formidable, and it's going to be interesting to see how our offense handles their defense. Just like Carolina Dad said, their defense was ranked pretty high last year. So, it's kind of hard to kind of get a grasp on where this offense is going to be at for the Carolina Panthers. But what I will say is I'm kind of betting on our defense kind of getting after that offense a little bit and kind of, getting Caleb Williams off his spot. That'll be I think it's a week 5 game. So
It is.
I'm kind of leaning towards Carolina, winning that game, only because I think Caleb Williams is going to try to play, like Ricky said, a little bit of hero ball. And, if JC and, Michael Jackson and all these guys are, pretty good in locking things down, we could be looking at a couple picks if he wants to play that type of game. The windows are a lot smaller in the NFL than they are in college, and you don't just have guys running like what he's used to 10 yards away from, from everybody else. So he's not going to have that luxury. He's not going to have the luxury of running outside the pocket and, trying to make things happen like he did before. So he may not be able to get that down pat by week 5. It may take a little bit longer. So I do believe that this game is depending upon how well our defense gets after Caleb Williams and throws him off his mark and make him have rookie mistakes. So I got Carolina winning this game.
All right. CJ?
I'm going to go with the Panthers, just for the simple fact, if nothing else, then Chicago thought that we just handed them the keys straight to the Super Bowl. Okay. If nothing more than that, I think they may fall into that trap that we fell into last year of we're just a quarterback away. Okay. And we all saw how that turned out, for us. Now, mind you, it was a situation where our whole team was in shambles. Okay. But I do agree with everybody that I hope Caleb Williams, does get out there and starts to play a little bit of hero ball. Hopefully JC Horn can keep DJ Moore in check. And, I'm hoping by that time our defense can be dialed in enough to be able to put some pressure on Caleb Williams, because I think that's the key, getting to him. If we can get pressure on him, I think we can get him rattled enough. We get him to force him into some mistakes. Okay. And the Bears defense, I'm not going to, they're no slouch. Okay. But I do think that we'll be able to score, some more points and, not just have a punt return for a touchdown against them like we did last year. So I'm going to go Carolina with the dub on this.
All right. For me, it's going to be a defensive game. CD kind of took my little nugget and I was to say about their defense. The Bears defense is legit. It's legit. One thing that I do think with the reinforcements that Evero has put in and implemented on this defense, it's going to be a very low scoring game. What I mean, it's probably like an ugly 20-10 win. One thing that we, even as Panther fans, we kind of crown Bryce. Some of us, I'm not talking about all of us on this panel, but some of us crown Bryce way too early. There is a gap between college and NFL ball. Even though that he has the traits, Caleb Williams hasn't really been hit. One thing that we said, Bryce didn't really get hit. Yes, when he got that first hit, whenever we played the Jets in preseason, we were like, okay, hold on. Like this, we need to take a step back. And we didn't really take what we saw and reevaluated our takes. So when you look at it, one thing that the Bears have a problem with is protecting the quarterback. One thing that you can have all the weapons out there. If you can't protect your quarterback, you can have any and everybody out there. But that's one thing Bryce didn't have. Depends on who you ask. They say, oh, Bryce had time, If he had time, et cetera, 62 sacks would not be there in for the record, but for the most sacks right there. So, again, I'm looking at it as Carolina winning, but it's going to be a defensive game. And do I trust Evero against Caleb Williams? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm also going to put this point out. Wanham, Dane Jackson, and Barno all can be back for this game because this is week 5. So you're going to have more reinforcements join this defense as well, along with the pieces that you bring in. So week 5, I do have it as a dub as well. So, fellas, we have week 6 through 9. Whoever goes first, I might ask you again, but we're going to go through win-loss for week 6 through 9. So whoever goes first, go ahead and tell me. I already have it up on my little notepad, and tell me win-loss through week 6 through 9.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll first because after this, I'm gonna roll out of here, man. And see, I do appreciate you, man, for letting me come on stage.
Oh, you already know, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just looking at this right here, just off bat, I think I kind of done or did a little schedule breakdown on wins and losses for this, and I do believe that in this stretch we can either go 2-2 or 3-1. And I'm gonna be honest with you. There's always a battle between us and Atlanta. I mean, it just always is. So, for me personally, I don't know for a fact how strong this Atlanta Falcons team is going to be. With the acquisitions that they did get, the guy from the Patriots, his name is fleeting me right now. Golly, what is his name?
Judon.
Yeah. Judon, and they also got another guy as well. I don't know why names are fleeting me today. I can't remember his name either. Golly.
Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons. Thank you so much. So with these two acquisitions, this does, place the Falcons at a stronger, a stronger fight in that game. I'm not gonna lie to you. And when you sit back and you look at the team as constructed, just on the defense, it looks good. I'm not gonna lie, it looks really, really good. Offensive wise, I think that that they're pretty decent. I don't know how this Kirk Cousins, connection is going to work out, and I'm trying to be very, very unbiased because I know Red Swarm is in the chat right now. But if they can get Mooney going and Bijan Robinson, they got, I believe, didn't they get like Ray McLeod or something like that? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they do. They have Ray.
Yeah. So I mean Drake London, Talaji. I mean they got firepower, but I always say this: Atlanta playing us, we always seem to win at home. They always seem to win at their spot. So I would have to honestly say that we win this one right here. We win this one right here. Now, the game that I'm kind of like iffy on, I'm not gonna lie to you, is this Washington game. And I'm only saying it because I'm not too sure about Jaden Daniels in Washington, only because I'm not sure on Cliff Kingsbury. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not too sure on him as far as Cliff Kingsbury putting together a formidable offense. I mean, he got ran out of Arizona. They did get a lot of defensive pieces from us. So just real quick, I think we win this game. I think that this Bo Nix Denver game is like a wild card game for me. I'm not gonna lie. I watched Bo Nix, and I was very, very harsh on Bo Nix. I'm not gonna lie to you. Because I didn't see him when he was with Oregon. I didn't see him really do too much outside of, throwing the ball deep and just allowing his star players to, kind of flourish. I don't know how this Denver offense is going to go. Second year, Sean Payton. Sean Payton has a real stench right now in Denver, in my opinion, with how he handled Russell Wilson and just the team in general. They let go a couple players that I think were beneficial for this year on offense. So, but I will say this. For some reason, like, I don't know what it is, but we can't win in Denver. We can't win in Denver. So I may be superstitious in that regard, but I think this may be a game that we do lose. And this is why I'm saying 2-2, and the 2 would be us splitting with the Falcons. We either lose to the Falcons at home, or we beat them at home, or vice versa at their spot. 3-3 or 3-1. We beat the Falcons. We beat the Washington Commanders. We lose to the Denver Broncos, and we sweep the Saints. So I do believe that we'll do that. And for me personally, I'm not sold on Dave on Carr. I'm not sold on this. I'm not sold on this roster. I'm not sold on the head coach. I think the Saints are just anemic. I think they have a lot of issue still, on both sides of the ball. I'm not going to lie to you. It looks bad. So just real quick, I think that's kind of how I look at it, just preliminary before, they get waivers and stuff like that done. But I think I'm pretty solid on the Saints. I'm a little iffy when it comes down to Denver, but I'm pretty solid on the Washington and the Atlanta Falcons situation. So I appreciate you guys. Ricky, Carolina Dad, C. Dougie, CJ Tony. I love you guys, man. Keep putting out great
Yes,
content,
sir.
man. And I'll be listening in.
All right, yes, sir, man. Be safe. All right, go ahead, Ricky. So what you got for us?
So I'll look at it and I'll go Atlanta at a 425 start at home is strange. I'm going to give that a loss, and I just think that they've added too much. So I'm going to give Atlanta a loss or Carolina a loss there. Okay. I'm also going to upset people, and I'm going to go loss at the Commanders and loss at the Broncos. Okay. I think we go into a 3-game skid there. I just think that that's a tough schedule. The Mile High effect going to Denver. I think that Washington is going to have some excitement there with Jaden Daniels. Then you come home and you got the Saints in week 9. I'm going to give us a win there as well. So I'll take loss, win.
So basically, I like what you did. You sweep the Saints, but you lose 3 non-divisional games. So
correct.
Okay, I'll take that. All right, Carolina, what you got?
I have Falcons with a loss. Although I was looking back, we've split with the Falcons over the last 4 seasons in a row.
Yes. Yes.
So this will be the one we lose, and we'll pick it up at the end. Washington, I'm not as high on Jaden Daniels. So for me, I am going to chalk that one up as a dub. I do think it's going to be difficult. And then I'm not sold on Bo Nix. I'm not sold on Zach Wilson or Sean Payton that they're going to be able to get this thing right. I think Sean Payton's door is closing very quickly there, and he's just praying that Nix figures it out after everything that's happened. But, it is difficult to play there. So a dub there. And then, unfortunately, I'm going to just to balance out wins and losses, a loss against the Saints. So loss, win, loss.
All right. Tony or CJ, go ahead, Ricky.
No, I was just going to say real quick because the Carolina Dad made a good point, and I don't want to take much time on this, but there are some games that don't make any sense why you win or lose. So sometimes when I look at a schedule like this and I look at the Broncos, I agree with everything Carolina Dad just said about the Broncos. I didn't believe in Bo Nix coming out. I don't really like Sean Payton, and I don't think that their roster is all that impressive. But for some reason, something squirrely is going to happen here in the schedule, man. We're going to lose games that we're supposed to win, or we're going to win games we're supposed to lose. So that was my stretch right there.
All right.
Yeah,
Uncle Jerome, what you got for me?
I'm going to go. We lose to Atlanta. We beat Washington. We lose to Denver. I think Denver is like that ultimate trap game. One of the ones that we fall into every year, because I do agree with Ricky and CD. I don't really have that much faith in their roster, but it seems like we always kind of run into something when we play them, especially in Denver. Okay, and we sweep the Saints. I got us winning against the Saints at home.
All right. Tony, let me pull you up to the main stage because what you got for me?
All right, I got us winning against the Funky Pigeons. I think those guys are putting too much stock in the aging Kirk Cousins. 36 years old, coming off Achilles injury. Matthew Judon, he's up there too. He's only played like 4 or 5 games last year with the Patriots. I don't think he's going to be any more. I don't think he's going to be any better than what he has shown the past 2 years. Okay, so I give us a win at the Funky Pigeons.
Okay.
I give us loss at the Commanders, loss at the Broncos, and a win back home against the Saints.
So you have us sweeping the Saints as well.
Correct.
All right. For me, I hate saying this. We're definitely gonna lose at Atlanta. Commanders, I'll be at that game. I'm not trying to lose any game I go to this year. So I'm knocking on wood. We go and beat Washington in Washington. Denver, like we always say, is a trap game. But I don't believe in Bo Nix. I don't believe in those weapons. I can't stand Sean Payton. I'm glad we didn't get fleeced by the Saints to bring Sean Payton here. So I have a win.
Pray on it, Doug.
And then we sweep the Saints. We sweep the Saints. We sweep the Saints. It was hard for me to say it, but I just don't see. I mean, the Saints. I think a lot of people are not putting Denver or not putting the Saints at the bottom of the totem pole. Their roster is aged. Derek Carr is trash. We say garbage juice trash, whatever. Derek Carr is not what you think he is. Dennis Allen should have been fired last year. I don't know how he got another chance. He was able to bring in another offensive coordinator. But I know people say, oh, they have Chase Young and Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan is aged. The only player that has not aged and still plays like fine wine on that defense is DeMario Davis. And as much as at his age, I know DeMario personally. He went to Arkansas State. Shout out to my alma mater. I did not think DeMario Davis would still be in this league this long. So other than that, their roster is not where you have youth in the Atlanta Falcons, youth in the Carolinas, and youth in Tampa Bay. And sometimes age just shows their hand. And I think that's the reason why we all think that the New Orleans Saints will be swept by the Carolina Panthers this year. So real quick, before we go into our Germany game, we have over 200 people watching, man. I appreciate everybody pulling up tonight. We are talking about our schedule. If you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you have not heard of Mr. Ricky Reigns, head over to the Bo Body Show or follow him on Twitter at Ricky Reigns. Then we have Carolina Dad, Two Growls, One Roar, that is also sharing the stream. If you are follow over there or watching, please head over to What's Up, Doug. Hit the subscribe button and also follow us on Twitter as well. Then we have our two big cousins always representing, CJ and Tony, at Two Fans in the Stands. Definitely follow them on YouTube and also on Twitter. So, fellas, the game that I think a lot of Panther fans are looking forward to is, will this be Brian Burns' revenge game? Going to Germany, however you feel about it, this is a primetime game, even though it's going to be 8:30 in the morning. How are we feeling about going to Germany, playing the Giants? And I'm going to pass this to Tony because, Tony, go ahead and tell everybody what's going to be happening for this Germany game, my guy.
Yeah, I definitely will be attending the game in Munich, Germany, between the Giants and the Panthers. I will be there with Panthers Germany, Wiley, also known, or not also known, but he's also a part of Black Cat Panther podcast. So we will be teaming up for that week. We haven't ironed out everything that's going to be going on, but we do have some things planned that we're talking about wanting to do in Germany. That game in particular, I'm going to say I'm going to give the Panthers a win. I think it's pretty important to get us a win before we go into that week, before we go into that bye week. Specifically because I don't believe the Giants have enough firepower on offense to cause us any grave concerns. Saquon Barkley is not there anymore. They don't have really a true veteran number one wide receiver. What Malik Neighbors is going to do his rookie season, that's going to be up in the air. I don't have no problem with putting J.C. Horn on Malik Neighbors. I think once you take him out of the equation, what else do the Giants have? Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones, and him coming back from that knee injury, I don't know how much of a difference he's going to be. So offensively for the Giants, I'd look for us to take take advantage of that situation. Now on the flip side, with the defense, the Giants do have a pretty good front four, so that's going to test our offensive line. But at the end of the day, I do believe that the Panthers come away with the victory heading to the Week 11 bye before we get into the gauntlet of the schedule.
All right. Next up, either Carolina Dad or Ricky. Which one y'all want to go?
You take it, Carolina Dad.
I'll take it then. So, as far as revenge game, I don't know how much revenge will be served. Speaking of Brian
I was
Burns,
being petty. I was being very petty with that.
I love it. I love it. I mean, one, wish him the best as always. Appreciate his time in Carolina, but I do like this game. With it being over in Germany in the early start time, Panthers, at least this group of Panthers, really hasn't traveled internationally. We haven't traveled internationally in a while. I do like it, and it was tough. I was trying to keep a running tab of myself, and if I chalk up a win, we got like a 6-4 record from what I've tracked so far, which gives me a little bit worried that what we've got going on in the second half. But I'm going to stick to my guns. I do think that Daniel Jones, it's kind of a similar situation with them just trying to figure out what is going on there in the quarterback room. And I do think the Panthers are going to be able to pull this out, and shout out to, of course, all the German folks that'll be tuning into that. So I'm going to chalk it up as a dub.
Okay.
Yeah, light work. I'm not even going to give you a long spiel on this one, man. Daniel Jones plays for the Giants. Ejiro Evero is our defensive coordinator. If you could confuse Daniel Jones, you can make him throw 3 interceptions. I anticipate 3 to 4 interceptions in Germany. I anticipate J.C. Horn to have a pick 6. I anticipate Icky to have a decent day against Brian Burns because he understands that a spin move is probably coming. So yeah, look, I'm ready for that one, man. Let's throw down. Let's have mimosas at 9 o'clock in the morning, and let's give it hell in Germany. That's a W.
All right. That was quick and easy right there, man. Come on, CJ.
Dub. Enough said.
All right. So let me throw this out. One person can take it. How many sets do you think Brian Burns gets?
At least
0.
Okay. All right. So after the Germany game, we come back to the States. We have bye week, week 11. With the bye week here, how are you feeling with the season so far? If your projection is what it is and everything correlates, we may have a win more than what you're projecting. We may have a loss more than what, we hit at. How are you personally feeling with the season going on so far at week 11? How are you feeling?
I think I'll be feeling pretty good. I think by that bye week, week 11, I think Carolina will be probably 2 games ahead of the total win total last year. So in my calculation, anything is better than what we did last year. And if we can get those wins before the bye week, I don't care if we 4-6 or 5-5 or what have you. I think that's a win for us. Definitely going to the bye week, and that is completely better than what we did last year. Apologize, man, for being a lost of words. I need to take my old ass to sleep.
Nah, you good, because you good, man. You good.
I feel
Ricky,
fairly decent. I think that you're splitting. For me, I believe I'm at 5 wins, 6 losses, or 5-5. So I feel pretty solid about that. You're already 3 games ahead of where you were. You're coming into the home stretch, which is a brutal stretch. So I'm happy that you got the 5 when you did and showed people you could play, because it's gonna be tough from here.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Uncle Jerome.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm a little bit ahead of schedule. I think I have this at 7-3 right now. So I know that's probably kind of wild. But hear me out.
I love that.
If we get wins, I think most of them will come on the front end of our schedule. I think the back end of our schedule is where we're going to take quite a few bumps in the road. And I don't think that and I think it might be a few bumps in the road, in our division too. So yeah, so like I said, if I'm going kind of on the ceiling of what I think the Panthers can be, but yeah, I think if we get our wins, they'll mostly be on the front part of the schedule.
Okay. All right. The Super Bowl champs visit Charlotte. Can the Carolina Panthers come off the bye week and upset the Kansas City Chiefs at home, securing a big win is the question. I'm going to go first on this one.
I was about to say, were you just laughing as you was reading that?
Yes, because I was trolling myself, man. Like I said, I had the pleasure of seeing Patrick Mahomes. If anybody can go to this game or go to their practice, he is one of a kind. I understand people are saying Caleb Williams, this and that. Patrick Mahomes is just a magical, like, it's unreal. It's very unreal. With the speed that they have, as much as I love my Carolina Panthers, this is a definite L. I'm about to say a W. This is an L. There's no way, again, unless Patrick Mahomes goes down, that we come out with a win. I understand people say you have trap games. The speed that they have with Worthy and Hollywood, I know Hollywood did get hurt, but what I was able to see, he just needed a quarterback. No slight at Kyler Murray, but he just needed a quarterback that can help him take his game to the next level. Then you already bring in Rice, then Isaiah Pacheco, who runs like a mad truck that does not want to stop. It's going to be a good thing that we host this game. I know everybody's going to say, well, when we had Teddy Bridgewater, Doug, what happened? We almost won. I understand that. But they didn't have the speed and the assets that they had now whenever we almost did beat them compared to the sorry wide receivers that they had back then. Now they also bring back a Juju with the injury to Hollywood that can also knows how to play with Patrick Mahomes. But I'm going to pass it off to you fellas, but I know that's a definite L for me.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick. L.
L.
All right.
L.
Well, I just leave. What you got, Carolina, Dad?
I got an L. I will say, I mean, it's going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. You can only hope that coming off the bye, that helps. And I mean, you go back and look at last year, like they were 11-6. They did turn it on in the playoffs. But they did lose in the regular season. They were vulnerable, and they even had that slip up against the Broncos. And so I think there's a possibility. I'm still chalking it up as an L, but I do think, hey, it is any given Sunday. So I'm always going to hold out hope once we get there.
No, and I'm with CD there too, though. I don't think that this is some sort of like 48-7 blowout. I think that this is a relatively competitive game. But if we're trying to expedite the win-loss predictions here, eventually the greater team prevails with the greater coach, the greater quarterback. So I'm going loss there.
Oh no, go ahead. I mean, if you want to elaborate on it, Ricky, go ahead. But
no, I don't. I
don't.
Yeah, no, I don't, because I think that, like, again, man, I think that the Chiefs really improved their situation, and they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and they've improved their offense. So that should be a scary thought, right? I just think for teams across the league, man, you're going to have your hands full with this team. But CD brings up a great point, man. Even Giants can get beat by smaller teams in any given Sunday. That's the parity of this league, man. That is what it is built off of. But I just don't see it with this game in particular. But I think coming off the bye week, the Panthers will come out very prepared and focused. But Pat Mahomes is a lot, man. And I just think
he's a lot.
Superpower.
He's a lot, man. All right, we're moving right along. Now we're into week 13. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We visit Philly, and then we have the Cowgirls come back. And I did not give them a whole slide. I did it on purpose. I live in Dallas. I can't stand Dallas. I mean, literally, like, I was hoping CeeDee Lamb set out the whole year, and that was going to be my Christmas gift for living in Dallas. But, I mean, he just signed his contract yesterday. But these three games, fellas, do like what we did for week 2 through, was that 5? Or no, 4. Week 2 through 4. Give me your predictions for every game and give me a game that you're looking forward to.
Okay, I'll go first.
Go for it.
Oh, go ahead, Rick. You want to go?
No. By all means, man, go for it.
Now I'm gonna say a loss against Tampa, a loss against Philly, and a win against Dallas.
Boy,
Make mine real quick.
hey Tony, why do you think we're gonna beat the Cowgirls? That's what I just need to know.
Well, one, I just don't think Dallas is going to have the same firepower on offense as a lot of people think. Especially when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about mainly the mainstream media. I don't think Dallas is going to be as good as they tried to talk Dallas up to be. Dallas definitely going to have some issues on the back end, defensively. Deron Bland is going to be out for the first 6 to 8 games of the season. So even when he comes back, it's still going to be some what I always say is a ramp up period to be 100%. I think we can just exploit uh Dallas, and especially for it being a home game. I think we're definitely going to be up for that game. I think we're going to play our best that game. With Tampa, I just believe that um the fact that the Buccaneers know Dave Canales and know this system, that gives them a kind of like a leg up. But at the same time, Dave Canales knows Todd Bowles' defensive scheme, so you're gonna see a little tug of war, the defense and the offensive chess game between those two.
And so
All right.
I'll go second if I can to piggyback off of that, because he mentioned that this was a home game, so that was one of the reasons that he wanted to, kind of give a little bit of an edge to the Panthers. I'm not sure how much of a home game it is. If you've been to any of the Cowboys games as of late, it certainly sounds like an away game there at the bank when the Cowboys come to town. The jerseys are predominantly covered in stars. A lot of them have rhinestones. It's really tacky and awful. It's a disgusting situation when the Cowboys come to town. But for a win-loss record, I'm actually going to go win against the Buccaneers. I think that's one of our few wins on the back end at home against the Bucs. You talk about them knowing Dave Canales' system. Dave Canales knows what Baker can and can't do better than just about any quarterback or any coach in the league, because he got him to do things that he has not done anywhere else. So he is going to be able to tell that defensive staff, the defensive players. I mean, he's the head coach. He's not the offensive coordinator anymore. He's involved in all phases of this game, and he knows that Tampa team like the back of his hand because they've kept a lot of the same core players there. So I like that rally for coach aspect at home, right? Division rival. I think that that's where they get their win. Then I think it's a loss against Philadelphia. Philadelphia seems to be a much improved team. They've got just all the talent in the world, man, and that's on the road. And then I think that the road game at Bank of America Stadium is going to be a little bit too much. I will say this about Dallas, man. Their ground game is in trouble. And a lot of what their prowess on offense has been through that ground game. And bringing back, the artist formerly known as Ezekiel Elliott, and then Rico Dowdle. And then all of a sudden they thought they might bring in the third ghost of Dalvin Cook because he didn't get a fair shake in New York with the Jets. He didn't find rhythm, as Tom Pelissero said. I don't think it was about finding rhythm. I don't think he has any juice left. He might be in shape. He might look terrific. Of course he does, man. Like, he's been in great shape and been looking terrific for 2 decades of his life, man. Like, you're not just going to fall out of it for a second. He's throwing medicine balls against the wall the same way Clavon Chason was catching tennis balls. Like, I want to see what you could do on the football field. And the last time I've seen you guys on the football field, it's not the same thing as what you want it to be. So for me, I just think it's win against Tampa, loss against the NFC East teams.
Okay. Go ahead, CD.
Got you. I'm rolling loss against the Bucs in that first game. I'm going to go dub against the Eagles, only because I feel like the Eagles are on a downward spiral. And I think there's just a lot of questions around where that team's headed based off of how they finished last year. Could all be a moot point by the time we get here, but I am taking that as a win and then a loss to the Cowboys. I do agree that even with all the question marks, I think there's a lot of pressure on Dallas, a lot of folks in Dallas to deliver this year. I'd love to see a win there, but for right now, I'm going to go ahead with a loss.
Can we just congratulate him on just putting it all on the table right there for everyone to see? I mean, we're going into the link and we're going to beat one of the more talented offensive rosters in football. Like, look, I'm excited about that, man. That got me jacked up. I'm going to be more excited for that game now because of Carolina Dad. When that game kicks off, I'm going to be thinking about Carolina Dad
Let's
taking
go.
the Panthers. Yeah, I love it. I just have a lot
Dude.
of worry, man. They got a great offensive line, and they brought in Saquon Barkley over DeAndre Swift. And then they bring in Jahan Dotson as their slot. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert is healthy. It's scary, man. But you know what? If Carolina Dad says it, I'm on board, man. Let's run with that.
Watch, I got a point. I'm gonna let CJ go, and then I'm gonna bring this point up. Go ahead, CJ.
All right, I got a win versus Tampa Bay at home, a loss versus Philly, and a loss versus Dallas. And one of my good friends pointed this out. Now, although Dan Quinn is not there anymore, they still have a formidable, defensive front. Still have to worry about Trayvon Diggs on the back end. And, hopefully by that time in the year, our offensive line is a well-oiled machine and can, go out there and hold up strong against them. But I'm still going to give us an L on that one.
All right. I'm going to say this one game. Well, I think are we at Tampa or is that at home with that Tampa game?
That's the home game against Tampa.
Okay. So we'll win at home. Philly, I don't know, but I'm going to put a bold prediction out. My family are Eagles fans, so I watch Eagles football. Nick Sirianni would not be the head coach to finish that year out. I think he would get fired mid-year just because of the disgruntledness of Philly fans, how the Eagles fans run that team, and him and Jalen Hurts already came. It was been reports that they didn't see eye to eye last year. That's the reason why the struggles happened down the stretch with Jalen Hurts and Nick. Yes, you bring in Kellen Moore to be a offensive coordinator, and you bring in what was the Miami Dolphins Vic Fangio as your D coordinator. I like both of those hires, but I do not think their head coach makes it throughout the whole year based off of just the disgruntledness in that organization. With all that being said, with a coach being fired, you never know how a team's going to play out. It can be a toss-up. So for me, if right now I would say it's a loss, but I think if Nick Sirianni is not the head coach, we do have a possibility. With the Dallas Cowboys, I want us to beat Dallas every year. My pops is a Cowboys fan, but right now, that's another defensive game. I think we will shock Dak Prescott because, again, we kind of did look pretty good against them last year, but we didn't have any offense to compete and keep up with points. But I think that's a defensive game, another low-scoring game, even though, the connection with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I'll go on a limb right now, 24-20 Dallas, but I would not be surprised if we can pull it out. But right now I do have it as a loss.
Hey, Doug, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes, sir.
Your point about the Philadelphia thing with the coach, right? I agree with it, like, that they were in turmoil last season. My question is the coordinators that you bring up, Kellen Moore being in control of the offense now, and then Vic Fangio, who is a legend and gets a lot out of his players as long as the players buy into kind of his tough-minded system, because that's the thing that Miami players said. They didn't care for his coaching style, right? Maybe that fits better in Philadelphia than it fits in South Beach, right? Like, I think that's a real possibility. But I think that the hires of those two coordinators actually takes a ton of weight off of Nick Sirianni's shoulders. Correct. I think that Nick Sirianni had to be more involved last year in the day-to-day operations and in the micromanaging of each unit, especially the offense with Brian Johnson. Not knocking Brian Johnson, but I don't think that he was ready for that offensive coordinator post. I think that he was a terrific quarterbacks coach and has a bright future as a coach, but I think he kind of got pushed into something early because of the fact that their offensive coordinator left, Shane Steichen. So I wonder a little bit about that relationship. May not be as rocky because Nick Sirianni may not be as hands-on with that offensive unit this year.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I went to their camp last year. Most of my family that live in Philly, it's almost just like Doc Rivers. And I know we're talking about a different sport. I'll make this point quick. Doc Rivers got fired because of the fans and the performance. And when you have a fan base like the Philadelphia Eagles, they call it brotherly love, but they're very passionate about their sports teams. They will get you booted out of a city, even if you have a winning season, if they personally do not like you. So that's the reason why I said it, because again, the connection, the reports coming out now that, Jalen Hurts and Nick were not seeing eye to eye, and we saw it even leading into that playoff game. I didn't think he was going to make it because I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had 2 meetings back to back, and I thought they were going to fire him, and they said, oh, he's coming back for a second meeting. That's when I knew he needed to bring in different coordinators and switch things up. But it's a waiting game. I will say this: if they don't come out swinging, he will be fired, regardless of what statistics say. Yeah, I honestly think wins and losses with them. You can have an MVP leading candidate, but they want to win another Super Bowl up in Philly.
Yep, fair enough, man.
So, all right, we're in the last stretch. Week 16, we have the Arizona Cardinals, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we have the Funky Dirty Birds coming to home to finish out the season. I'm going to go real quick. I think, like we say, Denver is hard for us to win at. I think we have the Arizona Cardinals number. Every time we play the Arizona Cardinals, we win. We almost win every time we play them. I think with Tampa Bay, we're split with Tampa Bay. And I think we hurt the Falcons by upsetting them, however you see it or feel about it. We upset them by lowering their seed in the playoffs. So they can rest their stars if they want to, but they need this win to either get a bye or possibly be a higher seed and not playing in the wild card game. So the last 3 of the games, I do see us winning against the Arizona Cardinals, losing against Tampa Bay, and finishing out the season with the win at home with the Atlanta Falcons.
I'll go. So the last game, just to let you know, Doug, if you thought that was a home game, that's the at Atlanta in Week 18. That last game. Yeah, okay, that might change you up a little bit, man.
I think I projected that we lose at home, so it's payback. So I'll keep it. It's still payback. Gotcha. Yeah,
and there's
still payback. My bad.
There's also a chance too, though, that Atlanta may have the division wrapped up at that point, and so if they sit players, if they're a division winner, but they're not one of the top 2 records, and they have to play in that first weekend of the playoffs, there's a chance that they also sit Kirk Cousins. Unless they feel like, hey, look, we've got enough people, and they just kind of trot everybody out there. But that's worth accounting for. I think what I'll do is I'll say Arizona Cardinals. I know that Dave Canales had mentioned at some point that he wants the Carolina Panthers to almost reach that type of scenario that the Arizona Cardinals were in last year as a team that was competing, but also still rebuilding their roster and developing young players. I think that that's a good barometer, and I think that they can beat the Arizona Cardinals. So I will take a win there at home against Arizona, and then I'll take 2 losses to finish the season. I think that Tampa and Atlanta will both be fighting for the division. I think that they'll both have stuff to play for still, and I just think that we will end up losing both of those final games.
All right, I'll go next real quick. The Arizona Cardinals game, that's the battle of the Mighty Mites. But I do believe that we will pull out a victory against Arizona. I think a lot of people sleep on Arizona, but I think Arizona has a pretty good ground game. They got the 1-2 punch with Trey Benson and James Conner. And now by adding Marvin Harrison Jr. as a wide receiver. But outside of him, I'm not sure. I'm not really sold on the wide receivers outside of MHJ. They also do have a pretty good tight end as well. I'd say that we lose at home. Lose at Tampa Bay. And for some reason, if the Funky Pigeons starting quarterback is healthy, still alive that game, we may lose at Atlanta. If not, then that will be a win. So that's kind of like a toss up, depending on if Kirk Cousins is the starting quarterback or not that game.
Okay. So Tony, you got loss to end it out, or is it loss-win for Tampa Bay and Atlanta? My bad.
It hurts me to say because I hate Atlanta just as much as I hate Dallas. But yeah, I got a loss, man. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, CD.
So for me, I'm actually a little bit higher on Arizona this year. So as much as the Panthers have owned them, I feel like it's going to be a bounce back for Kyler Murray. So I do, unfortunately, I'm going to chalk that up as an L, and I got a little ahead of myself on my win-loss total. So that's an L. I think Tampa Bay, same thing, battling for the division against the Falcons. At least that's who we'll think it'll be. So I put a loss there. And then as some folks have said, I think a win against the Falcons the final week, but only because they're resting starters. So, yeah,
Okay.
loss, win.
Okay.
CD was playing catch up, man. I don't even know if he really believes in what he just predicted.
It's true, man.
He's just trying to hit his mark.
I was going to have us like
it. You're
11
golf.
wins.
You play golf, don't you, CD? You're over here looking
man.
at your handicap, man. Trying
Like
to make sure
sandbag.
you
Oh my gosh, got ahead of myself here. Lower this down.
Hey, I'm gonna go
Go ahead,
win against
CJ.
the Cardinals, loss against Tampa, and I hate to say this because we do have our friend Red Swarm, who I've now dubbed Blue Claw because he's officially a Panthers fan now. I'm gonna say we could take an L against Atlanta in the last game of the season as well. But yeah, win, loss.
All right. Okay. I'm doing the calculations. So right now, Ricky, I have you at 7-10. Is that correct, my friend?
Spot on, baby. Almost like I'm an accountant by trade, man. Numbers are my thing.
So, all right, with your 7-10 record, how would you feel if that was a record coming now underneath Dave Canales' first year?
Really, really positive and really encouraged. I think that 7-10 means that you're competitive in essentially every single game, right? And you're still, the talent pool is still a little bit different. We're still in that 3 to 4 foot range of the pool, where there's the deep end with all the kids that can jump off the diving board. Like, we're learning how to swim. We're getting there. We got the little floaties, the little kick flop thing that you need, the little, you know what I'm talking about, the little board. My kid is in swim lessons, if you can't tell. Every single thing that I try to use as like an analogy or a metaphor is always some shit that I see with my kids. But yeah, so I just think that we're getting really close to that deep end, and we've shown that we have the ability to swim over there, but we just don't have the technique yet. So one more offseason with a bigger salary cap, first round pick, second round pick. I think you roll into 2025 knowing that Bryce Young is by far your franchise quarterback. I think we find that out. I think Robert Hunt pays dividends, man. Like, I have loved what I've seen from that guy. And I just think that he's going to be one of those rare instances of a free agent acquisition in the interior offensive line that actually pans out because he fits exactly what Canales wants him to be here. And I just feel encouraged by it, man. So 7-10 would not make me feel bad. I think our ceiling is 10 wins. I think our floor is 5. So 7, split it down the middle, man, and call me a happy camper.
I appreciate that, Ricky. Great way to break down that analysis of your 7-9 record. All right, Carolina Dad, you are up next, and I have your record as 8-9. Is that correct?
That's right. Got out over my skis, a little bit. No, I'll take it. So Aiden, if we get to 8-9, I mean, Ricky hit on a lot of the points. Honestly, 6 feels a little too low, but I do think 7, 8, 9 win range would be a successful year. I do agree that I think there's just too many missing pieces. I'd love to be surprised, but I think this is it's going to take some time. And we were all sold a big story, a big picture last year. And I think it's hard as a fan to want to be realistic about what's actually in front of you. But I think sitting in that range, and I'm pretty close, I think, on the range that Ricky had as well with 10. I can't go 11. So I say 10 ceiling, probably in that 5 to 6 range for the floor.
Okay. All right, CJ, you are up next, and I have you at 8-9. Is that correct?
No, I think I'm at 9 and 8. I think I'm at
okay.
9
So I missed one then. Okay.
But like
right,
I said earlier,
how would you feel about it?
If we went 9 and 8, I would be ecstatic. Okay. And I'm having mine on kind of the more of the ceiling side of what I think they can do, because I honestly believe that just like the Panthers, we do play a few teams that we, you know, at the beginning of the season, we think it might be one way, but as it goes on to the season, it may be another way. It may be another way, you know, one way good for them, or maybe another way good for us. So a lot of those games, especially in the middle of the season, it's like, you know, it's kind of a wait and see. Okay. But I do think it can go either way. I'm hoping it's somewhere in between, you know, I'm hoping that the floor is about 6 games. Like I said, the ceiling, you know, 9 and 10 would be, yeah, I would be happy with that.
All right. So, because Tony, I got you at 7 and 10. Does that sound about right?
Yep. That sounds about right.
All right. So, how would you feel? How would you feel with a 7 and 10 record?
I would feel pretty good. I right now I don't have expectations of us making the playoffs. I don't, me personally, I just don't see it. I believe that we have to crawl before we walk. Ricky made a great point early on when he said that there are some games that we're going to win that we should lose, and some games we should lose that, you know, that we're going to lose that we should win. And that one game was the Dallas game. Even though I hate them with a passion, I still believe that we can pull out a victory against Dallas for the simple fact the way that they do travel, the way that the Cowboy fans came into Bank of America Stadium. I think Carolina would use that energy from last year, and that, to me, that would be like our revenge game. So I'm hoping that it plays out like that. But a 7-10, hey man, that's a 5+, that's a 5 game uptick from last year. So I'll take it. And that, to me, that will also show that Bryce Young is going in the right direction. That would tell me that our offensive line play pretty on par, and that the team as a whole is going in the right direction in the first stage or the first season of this rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, I think I know it's going to be more than 2, and I think we're going to win more than what Vegas is saying with that 5 win total. I just need to see it, you know, for myself. September 8th is here. Everybody's waiting for football. College football has started week 0 last week. You got college football throughout this week. The NFL is right around the corner. I definitely think it is going to be a good season, a needed season for this organization. And I think we have the right coach. I think a lot of fans will see a different Bryce. I think the fans will see a different defense. I think Evero will be gone after this year. Thank you for what you have done for the Carolinas. But overall, we're in the right direction. If we win more than, I think the highest total we had is 9 games, then you're possibly looking at a possible playoff. If you win 7 games, you're not possibly picking in the top 10. You're in the middle of the pack where Dan Morgan said he wants to be at. He doesn't want to pick in the beginning of the draft every single year. So for me, I'm enjoying it. I love exactly what I heard from these fellas. I'm going to go ahead and shout out Ricky, Two Grounds, and CJ. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you guys at.
I'll start since you
Go
said
ahead,
my
Ricky.
name first. I guess that's where I was. I'll take that cue. You can follow me. You can see my @name right above my giant head. It's Ricky Bo Body on Twitter and on Threads. I just found out that I had a Threads that I started a long time ago when I thought that Elon Musk was still going to turn Twitter into like a submarine going to look for the Titanic that was going to implode. But also you can find my content on Cat Crave. I'm a contributing writer over there. I answer the mailbag questions every week now. I will be on another panel tomorrow night with the Panthers on Tap guys. That's Curtis and Bryson, along with JJ Hardy of Panthers Culture, Big Country Kev of the 4-Man Rush, and then my good friend Edgar Salmingo Jr., Panthers analyst. So that will be a very fun show tomorrow night. And then you can check out my show, The Bow Body Show. We do mainly Panther content, but I also get into some other squirrely business over there too. Thank you very much for having me on tonight. Make sure that you guys are following Doug's channel. Make sure you guys are following Two Fans in the Stand. And by all means, make sure you're following Carolina Dad over there at 2 Growls, 1 Roar. I ain't never seen a guy more dedicated to the craft than 2 Growls, 1 Roar, man. Like, I'm talking about this dude does everything. He'll show you the process of getting the followers. He'll show you why he's got the followers. And then he's all over the radio stations too, man. That's an impressive fella right there. So make sure that you follow him too, man. I appreciate y'all letting me come on and chop it up with you. And it's an honor to be in the same circle as you gentlemen.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, Mr. Honky Dory. Yeah, we're out of here. I mean, I speak about a man that hasn't really shown his face or really been in business other than making training camp the best that he could this year. That's the only thing I have to say about David Tepper. A lot of people had questions about how the setup was going to be. It could have been different in little aspects, but what he was able to bring and what we're going to have next year, I can't wait for training camp next year, man. Cannot wait. All right, go ahead, CD.
Ricky did a fantastic job there, man. I'll let him plug all my stuff whenever I need it. But seriously, man, appreciate you. I know we've been waiting to get connected for a while. 2 fans in the stands.
Correct.
I appreciate all of y'all that were at training camp because, I got to go one day. Y'all were doing a fantastic job with your videos, with your lives, with your posts and clips and everything that y'all do, man. So I appreciate you having me tag along and be able to try to share a little bit of knowledge. I guess, yeah, you can follow me wherever you get podcasts, YouTube, and Instagram, X, whatever. Just 2 Growls, 1 Roar. You'll be able to find me.
Appreciate that, Carolina Dad. Go ahead, Uncle Jerome. Go ahead and shout you and Tony at. Everybody should know where you guys should be able to find my big cousins at. CJ and Tony, just like our guy, Uncle Quan. Uncle Quan, I know people probably like, where's Quan at? Quan and I are still cool as his Chargers team are practicing. They won last week. He wasn't able to make it. He had practice, but trust me, he was in the chat and everything. But CJ and Tony, they're like my fan, like I said. Go ahead and shout everybody. Shout the channel, let everybody know where they can find you guys at.
Hey, appreciate the Willie Durag. I appreciate that. So y'all can find me and Tony on all social media at 2 Fans in the Stands and over on what we have dubbed as Twix. That's a mixture of Twitter and X. You can find us at 2 Fans ITS.
That's a fact, man. You got me on that one. I'm gonna get you because look, we didn't have a clean one today. I ain't had no jokes, so you got me. I already know Tony on there.
Way too many times.
But this is our show, man. This has been our show, man. I appreciate again Ricky, CD, Tony, and CJ pulling up. Definitely talking about the schedule. It was a pleasure meeting Ricky at training camp. No, I did not meet Ricky. I'm sorry. I thought, look, Ricky, you left too early. See, that's why I thought you remember me, you were talking about it. But I still have to meet Ricky, and I definitely have to meet Carolina Dad. We were trying to correlate to see if I can meet them. I can't wait to hopefully see them during the season or also see them in training camp next year. Again, like we always say here, what's up, Doug? Everyone be safe, stay blessed up, keep pounding. The season's right here, and see you guys next time. Peace.